The other thing I've really noticed with taxi listings over the last couple of years is they've done a really, really good job and put a lot of effort into including actual links to actual songs
Yeah, I
in
should
the
have said that. Yeah.
genre that are endemic of what that listing is looking for. I'd be curious to know what percentage of people A realize that those links are actually real links, and B go listen to them. But I assume that would be a great way to compare
Yeah.
how you stack up against the genre, right?
I mean, anytime I write for a listing that has those links, or even consider to submit to that, first thing I do, I go listen to those links.
Right.
Because a lot of the artists and genres that they're asking for, I guess more of the high demand stuff right now, I just don't typically listen to. It's not in my wheelhouse of either stuff that I write or stuff that I enjoy listening to.
Right.
So if I don't recognize the artist and they have links, that's the first thing I do before I will even consider submitting, is like, let me go listen to the song. Is this something that I could possibly pull off? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't listen to that. I mean, you're wasting your money otherwise.
Yeah, they're sort of handing it to you on a silver platter by giving you
especially
something
when it's coming from the music supervisor directly, or the music library, or the advertising agency.
Right.
They're saying this is what we're looking for. Why would you not go listen to that?
So that information in the listing, the a la, for lack of better description of them overall, that's actually coming from the user, the requester of music. That's not Taxi that's putting that in there. So you really are going straight to the source at that point.
I think there may have been one or two instances where Taxi has actually put in some of the a-las, because just to give the members a better chance, because even though the listing party, they didn't have anything specific in mind, but the call was still so broad for what they were looking for. Michael and the rest of Taxi, they wanted to give everybody the best shot at trying to hit what the listing company was asking for.
Right, and that's one of the strengths of Taxi, is that the organization knows the genres and generally what people are looking for, and so they kind of help out a little bit in that process. So one of the things that I've been asked a lot by new Taxi members, or people who haven't been members for long, is, do I go wide, and do I try to write music for and appeal to a huge number of listings in a year of many, many different styles, or do I go deep and stay really narrow and try to focus on one or two styles that are already my strength? And I have my advice that I give people, but since you've been doing this now for more than 4 years, I'd be really curious, based on your experience, what you would advise people to do as far as that depth versus width kind of thing.
When I started out, I tried to go wide, and I did have some success, but I was stretching myself thin. And then that's how I did things my first year. My second year, I actually started to get some deals. I started going deep, and I wasn't spreading myself thin and trying to do some of the genres that I might not have been as strong at. I really focused in on what I was really good at, and had some libraries that I were writing with that said, yeah, you need to write this stuff. This is what this is who you really are. This is what you sound like. This is what you're really good at. So I focused on just becoming the guitar guy. That's what a couple of the libraries I wrote for, they thought of me. You're the guitar guy. So I did that for a couple of years and got really, really deep into the different guitar genres that I was working with. And then after I had established myself, I decided, okay, now it's time to kind of spread out a little bit wider again, and started to branch out into some other genres, like dramedy and dramatic tension and that type of stuff.
Now, this is after you'd had a lot of experience, though, with submissions and
submissions, deals, placements.
So you really knew, you had a clear picture of what those different sort of silos were that you were going to enter into.
Because one thing I also learned was, if by spreading myself so wide, I happened to catch the ear of a music guy or a music library with a style of music that I don't really like that much, but I happen to did okay with it, and then they want an album of that. I'm kind of in that position right now, currently, where I have a project. The style is not my favorite per se. It's kind of like Black Keys type stuff, and I had done a few tracks, put them up on a music site, and I got contacted by a music library, and they want me to do a complete album of it.
Wow.
So I'm in the halfway through. It's not really my favorite style of music. So I'm really struggling on some of these to get, like, okay, how am I going to finish this project?
Right. But at the same time, you know enough about that style of music
right.
where you know you can kind of hit the mark as far as what
because I've been able to develop it over the last few years, where I really focused in on getting really good at one, focusing on my strengths.
Right.
And then I could branch out after that. Had that happened to me back in 2008, I don't know what I would have done, because I hadn't developed all the skills that I think I needed, from the overall production standpoint, not just the chops of being a guitar player. It's all the other aspects too, the mixing, the engineering, the production, the mastering.
Well, it's funny you should bring that up, Barry, because I've talked to you back in 2009, actually, after you'd been a member for a little over a year, about your first year of experience and your first submissions, your first what people originally call rejections, but then learned to use the term returns, your first set of returns. Have you got an example for us that you'd like to provide?
I just happen to have one.
I know this is such a classic example. I've heard Barry talk about this before, so it's definitely something worth hearing. It's a great lesson on how the submission and return process works, and also how much your own reaction to it plays into the process. So take it away, Barry.
All right. So back in 2008, I had just been a member of Taxi, joined in January of 2008. My first submission was a return. The next 9 submissions, all forwards. So I thought, I got this made. I have figured it out.
I have to interject. That's not typical, right?
No.
To get that many forwards that fast.
No.
Okay. Just so people know, that's not the norm.
Then
so
I
must
had
have been doing something right.
Hard rock metal, doing what I know how to do.
Right.
Then I had like 3 months of nothing but returns. And there was one specific return that I happened to get. And at the time when I got it, it crushed me. Literally for the next 3 days, I was just moping around the house. Like, do I need to think of switching careers? Is this something I can keep doing? So I've since read this return, and it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was at the time.
Right.
So I'm going to just read it. It was for the track was a replacement track listing for a feature film. The song was "All Because of You" by the 88s. So a friend of mine, Joel Shoemake, great writer. He and I have written a lot of stuff together. He did the vocals. He wrote the melodies. We kind of back and forth on the lyrics, and I did everything else.
Now, was this song outside your comfort zone? This wasn't a heavy
this
metal
this was not metal. This was a very indie rock pop kind of thing that was more in Joel's wheelhouse than it was mine. So the return said, "You have a very sweet voice, and these melodies are well crafted to me. Nice melodic lift in the chorus as well as a fairly focused hook. This has a pop sound and vibe, especially with your vocals, but the instrumental performances are making this sound more like a demo than a master quality track to me." So what did I hear when I first read that? Barry, your production sucks. The vocals are awesome. Everything else was horrible.
Right.
That's what I heard.
And who did the vocals?
Joel did the vocals.
Right.
Who did everything else? I did everything else.
Right. Now, the songwriting was
50. Yeah, he did most of them. He probably did almost all of the melody. He's really good with the melody stuff. And all of the compliments were about the vocals and the melodies.
Right.
All of the non-compliments were about everything that I did.
Right.
So I was just crushed. And there was another comment. I just wanted to reiterate here that I think this is strong songwriting. And in general, I think this is very pitchable lyric theme for film and TV scenes, whether it's this listing or others. And with the sweet tone to your voice, you can pass for modern or retro pop, which is a positive. However, before this could be considered a master quality track, in my opinion, you'd have to raise the quality of your instrumental performances to that of your voice. A really solid effort, though. What did I hear?
Stab, stab,
stab, stab, stab, stab. Barry, your production sucks. The vocals were awesome. You are doing a disservice to the vocal track with your instrumental performances.
Right.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
What I didn't hear was, I wanted to reiterate that I think this is strong songwriting. And honestly, I shared this with you and Nancy a few minutes ago before we went on air. I totally did not realize that until I read this just tonight.
Right.
I completely passed over
so
that.
At the
time,
didn't even hear it.
Didn't even hear it. Did not even. And then as I'm reading over this again, I was like, wow, they actually thought it was strong songwriting. Totally missed that back then.
So you had a pity party.
Had a pity party.
Felt awful.
Felt horrible. Just moped around and thought, do I want to quit? Do I want? But you know me. I am not a quitter.
Barry is definitely not a quitter, folks. Trust me.
I'm too stubborn, for one, to give up. And
good quality to have in this situation.
So it just happened that about 2 weeks after I got that return, because I'd actually gotten a bunch of returns, for a couple months straight, just return. Production is just not good. Your music is good, but your production is not. And then that return was kind of like the final straw for me. I'm like, okay, I get it.
I hear you now.
I hear you. Okay. So about a week or two after this happened, Michael Laskow did a taxi seminar here in Nashville, and you guys were there. You ran sound for it, and Michael introduced you guys, and I was like, there's my answer. I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to this guy who knows what he's doing with engineering and production, and I'm going to see what I can learn from him. And I took about 3 months off from writing, and basically just spent it on some DVDs and some books on how to get better mixing, how to learn Pro Tools better. I was using Pro Tools at the time. Cubase now.
Yay, plug for Cubase.
And so I spent time with you at your studio here, and just tried to soak up as much as I could about how to get better at the engineering and the production aspect, because I'm self-taught. I have no formal training in any of this. I'm a self-taught musician. I'm a self-taught engineer. I'm a self-taught producer. Everything I've picked up on my own, or I've learned from you, or I've learned from books and DVDs that I bought. So I did that for 3 months. I took those tracks that I had written in the past that were getting returned, and I took the advice from the critiques, and I applied the advice that they gave me with the knowledge I got from the training over that period of time, and then remixed them, re-engineered them, and resubmitted them to new listings, because there were other listings that came up later on that were similar. And I'm very happy to say that those tracks ended up getting forwarded. Then they ended up getting signed.
Wow.
And a lot of them have gotten placed and are earning me money right now.
Super. So the lesson in that is something that may not start out appropriate with some rework can have quite a life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So just to put it simply, don't give up the first time you use a piece of music for something. There's a lot you can do with it after that.
Definitely.
Well, Barry, this has been great. We have Nancy Moran behind the camera over there. And Nancy, did you have any other things you wanted to ask Barry about? Did we pretty much cover the gamut here? Great. Well, we'd like to thank Nancy Moran for doing the videography on this one here, for being behind the camera, and thank you, Barry.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to do it.
I have worked up a great friendship over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been a blast watching your progress and your success through taxi. You're up there at the top echelon now. And I know many people look up to you, and you've proven that it can be done and how to do it right. So we really appreciate your time for being here and doing this with us tonight.
Well, thank you.
Thank you much, brother.